From the crossroads of the Ozarks, it's PID Radio. Welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and here we are. It's a Sunday. It's a Sunday?
Oh.
We do this on Saturdays.
I know. Well, we had things going on here in the barn yesterday.
Trey Smith.
Yeah, Trey Smith was over for a visit.
Our neighbor Don Fields stopped by.
Thank you, Don, for the
produce. Thank you.
Homegrown vegetables.
Oh, yeah. And so those jalapenos.
Wonderful, wonderful visit yesterday. So rather than try to jam PID Radio into that already full day, we decided to just hold off for a day. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for joining us here in the barn. Thank you for your support, which has made this barn possible.
Yeah, in fact, Vicki Joy Anderson is going to be making use of this space in about an hour and a half because her internet went down, and she's able to use this because of you.
Absolutely. So we thank you for that. Gilberthouse.org/donate if you are so led to support, but we do appreciate your prayers most of all, especially as we're heading into times that are really unsettled. But it has always been so. When we look back on history and it's just, names and dates in a history book, it seems like, oh, okay, well, that was interesting. The people who lived through it at the time, I mean, going back 100 years ago to World War I and the great influenza of 1918, 1919, they must have thought it was the end of the world. So
they really did. In fact, speaking of World War I, and many of you, if you read the Red Wing saga, I'm heading up on that. And the book 9, Queen's Sacrifice, is going to take us right into 1900, 1901. And that is looking geopolitically, the treaties that were happening between Russia and France and Great Britain and Germany and Austria and Hungary and all these various places with these secret societies that were also meeting at that time, including the Black Hand, which was responsible for the assassination of Archduke that kicked off World War I. Well, World War I prompted Rudyard Kipling to write a couple of poems, and one of them we're seeing being acted out on the streets of Great Britain today.
Yeah.
And it's not about race relations, even though it could be applied there. It's really about taking the Ottoman Empire and everything that was leading up to it, and the Russian pogroms that were stressing their economy, so many things that were stressing the British at that time, very much like what's going on today. I've said many times we're seeing the same lead up to World War III that we saw in World War I.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, do you have the poem? Can you read it?
I do. It's from the Kipling Society, their website, and I'll put a link to this in the show notes so you can read it. And again, this is in the context of World War I. It was not part of their blood. It came to them very late, with long arrears to make good, when the English began to hate. They were not easily moved. They were icy willing to wait, till every count should be proved, ere the English began to hate. Their voices were even and low. Their eyes were level and straight. There was neither sign nor show when the English began to hate. It was not preached to the crowd. It was not taught by the state. No man spoke it aloud when the English began to hate. It was not suddenly bred. It will not swiftly abate. Through the chill years ahead, when time shall count from the date that the English began to hate.
Yes, and count from the date he's talking about World War I. He is trying to explain why England so readily, why the English boys so readily jumped in and said, we're going to fight those Germans. We're going to fight those Turks.
Yeah. But it is being brought up now by liberals in the UK who are looking at the protests on the streets of Southport in response to...
And elsewhere. They're all over the place.
Well,
right now.
And elsewhere, yeah. And this is why a British activist named Tommy Robinson, who's been... he kind of came to prominence about 15 years ago and kind of faded from view during the Boris Johnson administration especially, but has come back again. And he's been in trouble with the law because he is promoting essentially an English first agenda. And we've seen the point and shriek at all those who dare state the obvious, like John Cleese a few years ago when we were over there in 2019. It was just before we got there. John Cleese, Monty Python fame, who pointed out that London is not English anymore. And
he got skewered for it, whereas the mayor can say it.
Right. Sadiq Khan made that comment just a few weeks ago, and it was, oh, yeah, he's right.
It all depends. Do you come from the right or from the left? Today, Sir Keir Starmer gave a speech where he condemned the riots. I don't think you should riot either. What's going on there right now is not going to help anything. He condemned the far right. He kept repeating it, far right, far right, far right. And he said that there should be no one who fears because of skin color or his faith. And I thought, he is blaming the far right for going after people with different appearances and different faiths. But no one is protecting those others, the others, those who practice Christianity or Catholicism. But I know that they're both Christian. Let me say that again. Those who practice Christianity, those who perhaps have less melanin in their skin. We should never repeat that. Never judge on appearance.
Right.
Martin Luther King, judge on my character, not on my skin. That
was the dream that he said he had when his children would live in a world where they would be judged by the content of their character. And now we're living in a world that says, no. If you're not judging by the color of skin, you're racist.
Isn't that terrible? That
flipped on its head.
Flipped on its head. Yeah. And so those of us who really want for everyone to have a seat at the table, for everyone to be treated fairly with respect, we're called racists. This is what the fallen realm are trying to set up. It is tribe against tribe, ethnos against ethnos.
Nation against nation.
That's exactly what that means. It's originally ethnos. It's not a country. This is a tribe against tribe society. Right. And we're so swiftly getting into that. And I think that we're going to see more of it, and I hate that. I truly do. I don't want to see that. But we're told that in the last days, these things would happen. Right. Not just tribe against tribe, but within families. That children would be turned against their parents.
Yeah, we've seen this in the corporate media the last few years, where come Thanksgiving or Christmas, there will be snarky articles from the left-leaning media. How do you talk to your crazy, conservative uncle at Thanksgiving dinner? That sort of thing.
I know that's coming out.
And but this is what's going on in England. Robinson, I was trying to remember the name of the organization that he co-founded back in 2009. It's the English Defense League, which kind of faded from prominence after about 2011. But Robinson has been a target of the British government for quite some time because he's promoting an England for the English sort of agenda, but more specifically an anti-Islamist agenda. And
which is hailing back to World War I.
Right.
It was the anti-Turk. That was the Ottoman Empire. That was the Islamic ruling class.
Yeah. This even overlaps in the big Venn diagram. And of course, we know Kamala Harris loves Venn diagrams, so hopefully she'll really enjoy this show. The Venn diagram of topics for today overlaps with what's happening in Israel. Israel has been vilified for its response to what happened on October 7th, and we'll talk more about what may be coming in the days ahead. But Israel is on the front lines of a fight that will come to us. We in the West right now are like Rohan in The Lord of the Rings. We're hoping that this war between the orcs and Gondor won't spill over to ours. We don't want open war. And as Aragorn said, open war is upon you whether you wish it or not.
Exactly.
Because Islam's 1,400-year history, if we would learn from history, we would not be doomed to repeat the lessons, the mistakes thereof. Islam has a 1,400-year history of conquering, killing, and enslaving Christians, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, animists, anyone else that they encounter who does not believe as they do. If you want to become a Muslim and swear the oath, they might let you in. They might kill you. There was a story I was reading today about a foolish young man from the UK who back in 2009, he was Italian, dismissed the warnings and moved to Gaza. He was a pro-Palestinian activist in Italy. And in 2011, he was kidnapped by Islamic Jihad and tortured to death because he was an infidel. This is Islam's 1400-year history. And those who are convinced that somehow trading land for peace will achieve a lasting peace in the Middle East are just deluded.
No,
they're deluded
happen.
Or they're dissembling, one or the other.
It will never happen.
So that is, and saying so out loud, like somebody like Tommy Robinson or a Raymond Ibrahim or a Daniel Pipes, will put you in the margins as far as political discourse in this world.
But also daring to say that all people should be treated equally.
That is also.
That is not.
Yeah, right.
That just isn't allowed these days. So we will say again, please download our app.
Yes.
It is free. You can go to gilberthouse.org/app and it will show you how to get. We're on all sorts of places.
Yeah.
We're at Android, we're on iOS, we're on
Amazon Kindle Fire.
Yeah, we're everywhere. Well,
Roku, Apple TV.
Are we on Fire Stick yet?
No. Was looking at that. I'm going to send a note to our contact at Subsplash, which is the developer of the app, and find out what's going on with Amazon, why they're taking so long to approve it, because we've got everything that they need from us.
We'll figure that out. Yeah. But in the meantime, please go there and you can download us to your mobile device and your set-top box, whatever you want to do. But we won't always be allowed on the free places. We pay a Christian company for this app. They maintain it. They create things. They change it as we ask. They store all of our content.
Right. And
which is a lot.
It is. And in fact, we forgot to mention on Gilbert House Fellowship this morning that I have added all of the interviews from the 2014 Pikes Peak Prophecy Summit.
Oh, that's some good stuff.
Except autocorrect when I sent out the first notification. If you're on the app and you get those little push notifications, the first one went out as the Poles Peak Project Summit.
Could have been Pie Speak.
Yeah. But,
talking about pies.
Yeah. The Pikes Peak Prophecy Summit, L.A. Marzulli, who else was in there?
Gary Stearman.
Russ Disdar, Gary Stearman.
Yeah. Gosh, just go look at the
Russ
list.
Brialt of the Shroud of Turin.
Yes, that's where we first talked with him.
Yep. So a lot of good stuff in that. And there will be others yet to come. I've now figured out the quicker way to ingest the material. I don't have to download, re-upload. It will actually pull stuff in from our other hosting company.
Yeah, so please download the app.
And start looking for the content in the older stuff, the archive stuff going back to 2005, available in the app.
We are just the OGs.
The old geezers.
Yep, that's us. The original geezers.
Right.
Venn diagram. Including this for Kamala. She is about to pick a VP candidate for her campaign. And there's an article that I shared to X, formerly Twitter, this morning that I think it was at Allgemeiner, but it's a wonderful article about the Judas who was
Times of Israel.
Times of Israel. Thank you. You're right. It was TOI. That talking about the Judas of the first century Israel with the Second Temple destruction on the 9th of Av, on Tisha B'Av.
Right.
This is an important article to read. It is your assignment for today. Trust me, you want to read it.
I will link to that article as well.
There's stuff in there I wasn't aware of. Again, knowing history can tell you what's going to happen. You really can. You can see patterns in history. And what was the wonderful book that was written about the patterns in history?
Oh, The Template of Time by Tom Paine. I don't think it's available anymore. I think he's pulled it off Amazon.
Oh, it's really, really good.
Yeah. But the blog that there was a blog at the Times of Israel authored by a man named Jerry Klinger, who I'm glad you shared it with me because I had not heard of this
general?
Jewish general who served in the Roman army. His name was now I lost it here. Is
Gaius Julius?
Tiberius Julius Alexander. Tiberius Julius Alexander. His uncle was Philo of Alexandria.
Yes, exactly, the famous one.
Yeah, one of the two Jewish sources of history for the first century that we have. The other being Josephus, of course, who served in the rebel army during the Great Jewish Revolt until he saved his own skin by, basically throwing himself on the mercy of Vespasian, who took a liking to him. And so he became Flavius Josephus.
Well, here's the thing. The Lord used that because Josephus left us a record that we all refer to. Everybody who does research into this, we tend to read, and that helps give us context for history.
Mm-hmm.
But this Jewish general,
mm-hmm.
was put in charge of the Jerusalem campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And contrary to Titus's orders to preserve the temple,
mm-hmm.
he decided to destroy the temple.
Yeah, and according to Klinger, it was because, and this is recorded by Josephus, that while they were trying to preserve the temple, the zealots kept attacking the Romans who were trying to protect the temple. And finally, the Romans just went, that's it.
Yeah,
we've had enough.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go Pompeii on you now.
Mm-hmm.
And the temple was destroyed.
Yes, sadly it was. And that
was the fulfillment of prophecy, though.
It was indeed, and that occurred on Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. It was more than that day, but that's the date that Jews mourn
mm-hmm.
for that, what happened then. So twice the temple has been destroyed on that day.
Right, Nebuchadnezzar the first time. Mm-hmm.
So the 9th of Av is coming up, August 12th and 13th on
mm-hmm.
our Gregorian calendars, and there are many who believe that Iran may well choose to strike on that date. I wonder about that because if we're all expecting it on that date, they're likely to choose a different one.
Mm. Yeah, and they may not want to wait that long because there are people inside the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps,
mm-hmm.
who want to hit back and hit back hard. And there are reports from alternative media sources that Russia has been flying quite a bit of weaponry and hardware, military hardware,
mm-hmm.
into Tehran.
Yeah, there are people online who track flights
mm-hmm.
from all sources, and they've been reporting this Bulgarian military airlines that traffics in weaponry.
Right, that's basically what they do. They ship military hardware, making numerous flights into Tehran. Some sources, citing intelligence sources who would not go on the record, but they say that they expect the attack later today, U.S. time, tonight into tomorrow.
It's more than likely going to happen overnight.
Yeah. But bringing this back, the Tisha B'Av and the Venn diagram back to Kamala Harris, the point of Klinger's article is that just as Titus had a Jewish general in charge who, even while disobeying his orders, basically betrayed his people,
mm-hmm.
Harris treated Benjamin Netanyahu very shamefully as the presumptive nominee. She's now got enough pledged delegates to be the official nominee. They're saving democracy by appointing
mm-hmm.
a candidate for whom nobody voted in the primaries.
But anyway, they need the Jewish vote.
They need the Jewish vote. And Harris, even though she refused to meet Netanyahu at the airport, did not attend Congress when he addressed
mm-hmm.
Congress.
She says, I'm busy.
And she shrugs off. It's like, hey, I can't be anti-Semite. My husband's a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
how faithful is he? I mean, is he a religious Jew or is he Jew in name only? I know there's debates. Is being Jewish religious or is it genetic?
It's both.
It's probably both. But the presumptive choice for vice presidential candidate is Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania. He's a popular governor of that state. It's a swing state. Democrats need to win it in order to win the White House in the fall. So politically speaking, it would be a great move. The problem for Democrats is that Shapiro now is having to distance himself from things that he wrote as a young man. When he was a college student at the age of 20, he wrote an op-ed for his college newspaper explaining why the Palestinian Arabs would never agree to a two-state solution, or they might agree to it, but they would never hold to it. They're not capable of peace because they want war. I find it interesting that now, as an older man, that Shapiro, and he's still fairly young, he's in his 40s, would distance himself from a more conservative view that he held in his 20s, because typically you get more conservative as you get older. Yeah. It's the other way around. In my 20s, even up to 25 years ago, when we first met Avi Lipkin, who is a firebrand,
mm-hmm.
I thought, boy, he's radical. No wonder there'll never be peace in the Middle East. You got Israelis like him, But I've come to find out over the last 25 years that Avi is right.
He's right. Absolutely.
Islamic history, 1,400 years of precedent there to draw upon. So it seems to me, and I don't know much about Governor Shapiro, so maybe I'm wrong, but it would seem to me that what he's saying today is just expedient to try to win the political job that he wants. He volunteered in his 20s. He had to do it, I guess, when he was a student. He volunteered on a kibbutz, did some service projects at an IDF base. There are questions.
He never carried a gun.
Yeah, there are questions as to whether or not he volunteered in the IDF. Now, the Philadelphia Inquirer did say, yes, he was served in the IDF, but other sources say, no, he just volunteered, did a service project at an IDF base. Either way, the main point is that 25 years ago or whenever this was, he was arguing that the Palestinian Arabs were not capable of peace. There could never be a two-state solution. And now he's saying, no, the two-state solution is the answer. So was he mistaken then or is he mistaken now? And as an older man, I would say he's probably just saying what he needs to say to pacify the Jewish base. But Klinger's point is, don't be fooled, Democrats in the United States. Vote for the party that's actually going to protect Israel.
Exactly. Well,
or the candidate anyway, because there are a lot of Republicans.
Well, the candidate.
George W. Bush and his Secretary of State, former National Security Advisor, first black National Security Advisor, Secretary of State.
Powell?
Rice?
No. Condoleezza Rice.
Condoleezza Rice, thank you. I was thinking Rice, and I thought, no, that's Susan Rice. No, different Rice.
No, that's entirely different. Yeah. That's Clinton.
Condoleezza Rice was arguing 20 years ago that the time had come for a two-state solution. So not all Republicans are on board with this idea either. Trump has been the most pro-Israel, Jewish-friendly president in American history.
I'm going to recommend again an account on X, formerly Twitter, but also on YouTube. Jesus Enrique Rosas. He is the body language guy. So if you just do a search for body language guy on those two platforms, you'll find him. He is really getting into politics right now. He's from Venezuela. He's very angry about what's going on down there.
Oh, yeah.
But because he has, amongst his many accounts, he's got over 1 million people in the United States alone that follow him. So he feels like what goes on in the United States is something he needs to pay attention to. So he follows the body language and the language of our politicians, including Trump. He's done analyses of all of them. He took a look at Harris's campaign page, trying to find her platform.
You can't.
You can't, because she hasn't put it out there yet, assuming she's got one. However, Trump does.
Sure, yeah. You can pretty much summarize Harris's platform in one sentence. I'm not Trump. That's basically it.
Yes, it's anybody but Trump at this point. That's why we are being, I don't want to use the term gaslighted because it's way overused.
Way overused.
We're being told again and again and again that Harris is all that and a bag of really wonderful chips that were probably made from scratch.
Ooh, kettle chips.
So kettle chips.
Yeah.
However, just a month ago, even her party was dissing her.
Yeah, there were stories in the corporate media that typically lean very left who were describing her as the most unpopular vice president ever.
Yeah, useless.
Telling us that she had failed to demonstrate competence in the areas that had been assigned to her, like the border.
You can't even say mostly harmless, because by ignoring the things that she was assigned to do, she harmed the United States.
Cited people who had worked in her office as saying this is not somebody who's willing to do the preparation and the work. Someone who, like Hillary Clinton, oddly enough, you were not allowed to look in the eye. Only a few trusted staffers could actually even look her in the eye. If you were an underling, if you were an intern, do not look her in the eye, because she would explode, start dropping F-bombs on you.
Oh,
this is Kamala Harris 1 month ago.
But now she's saying
92% of her staff has quit on her during her 3 years as vice president because they can't stand working for her.
Magazine cover. She's on this giant, I don't know what it is she's supposed to be sitting on, and it's Camelot.
Yes, I saw that. New York Magazine, Camelot.
Did anyone actually think about how that would be perceived? First of all, what she's sitting on, that's been interpreted as quite a number of things, including the picture with a dung beetle.
It's supposed to be a coconut, but yeah. Which is a dual meaning. If you've seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail or the musical based on it, Spamalot.
Well, exactly. That's the first thing you and I said when we saw it. Assuming that's a coconut, where are, it's only a model.
King Arthur and his knights.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the squire with the coconut shell.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not familiar with the movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail, it's hilarious, but it was a low-budget movie. They could not afford the horses.
So they just had a guy banging two coconut halves together.
Right, to make it sound like the clopping of hooves.
Yeah.
Anyway, but she also had that comment where she said, did you just think you fell out of a coconut tree? So there's a dual meaning there. And you can find that video on YouTube if you want to search for it.
Well, yes. So anyway,
But
the next 90 days or so are going to be filled with articles that sing her praises.
And we've seen it over the last 2 weeks already. Just the transformation of Kamala from most disliked, most unpopular vice president in American history to the savior of the Democratic Party.
I almost have whiplash just from going from one to the other. So we're supposed to forget everything that came before.
Yeah.
And now this is the new truth.
The new reality.
That's the world we're living in now. This is a prophetic fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
That up would be down, black would be white. We'd be told evil is good and good is evil.
Right. And while those of us have been around for a little while and have seen
the OGs.
Yeah, the OGs. We were astonished that Joe Biden won the nomination because we'd seen Biden and his gaffes over years, but saw the rest of the Democratic field in 2020 was just made up of socialists and other people whose appeal was so narrow that there was no way they could win over independent voters. Biden was the least bad choice, and they managed to push him into the office. The only reason Joe Biden, and remember, Kamala Harris was one of those who was saying the week before the disastrous debate in June that Joe Biden was fine. All of these stories about his cognitive decline are fake news, cheap fake videos that are selectively edited to make him look bad.
Ignore the fact that he's climbing onto an empty plane.
Yeah. Well, no, he was doing that to congratulate the flight crew. Didn't you know? That's the explanation that's been floated now. Anyway, all of the media saying, we didn't know. Like, come on. Anybody with eyes to see could see that it was happening. The point is that he still was inaugurated as president anyway. Mm-hmm. And it is possible, Christian listeners, as unlikely as it seems, as unpalatable as it would be for us as Christians and for Israel as a nation, that Kamala Harris could win in November.
And so you have to ask yourself, if the Lord decides, and of course he's already made the decision because everything is now to him, if he has decided that it will be Harris and whatever VP she chooses, then how will you react?
Yeah.
Our job will not have changed, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
It is still to lift up Christ, crucified, risen, and coming again.
Yep.
We are to love one another. We are to love our fellow man as we love ourselves. Love the Lord with all our hearts, souls, and minds. There's no exception in there, unless, of course, the person you don't want to be in the Oval Office was elected.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no asterisk with fine print down below.
None whatsoever.
Terms and conditions?
Yeah, exactly. Look,
no, they do not apply.
Christians throughout history have lived through far worse leaders than we've had.
You mean Biden isn't as bad as Nero?
No, well.
Caligula?
No. He isn't.
Oh.
No.
Oh, Diocletian?
No.
No. Oh, I'm pretty sure he is. No, he's not.
And there are lots of other things to worry about.
Yes.
Do your job as a Christian first, as a member of as a citizen of the United States, then go vote. Mm-hmm. Make sure you go vote, not just because you're voting for a presidential candidate, but because you're going to have local election stuff in there too.
Right. And that's where you still have some influence over policy that affects your children and your grandchildren.
Exactly.
Get active, know who the school board candidates are and what they stand for.
Know who your governor might be, your
State
lieutenant
representative,
governor, all
state
of those
senator,
things.
right.
These things matter. And you're right, school board, that's a biggie.
It is a biggie. Well, a little more on politics coming up. I want to talk also about how Democrats are freaking out about a secretive Christian organization that wants to take over the world.
Not that one.
Yes, that and more as PID Radio continues. Giants, gods, dragons, they're all real. We may not see them with our natural eyes, but their handiwork is evident in what's happening in the world around us, the spiritual warfare taking place.
It is so true. It's obvious in Israel, but worldwide. Historically, we've seen this happen. And we want you to get excited about the Old Testament and the New and the giants, gods, and dragons within it, because your kids need this information. So do you.
Yes. We're living in prophetic times. Help make sense of it with our special offer through July. Our book, Giants, Gods, and Dragons, which takes a fresh look at end times prophecy. My book's Bad Moon Rising, about the spiritual forces behind Islam. And Last Clash of the Titans, the overlap between what we were told is Greek mythology and the Bible. And our DVD, based on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. All of this, an $80 value for just $45 plus shipping and handling. Now through July, only at our online store, gilberthouse.org/store. Extended through August. Welcome back to PID Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and we've got an announcement to make.
We do?
We do. We have partnered with Kenny C.
Oh,
and
yes.
his beautiful fiancée, Gidget. She is a genius. She creates all sorts of items, and we have set up a store with them for Gilbert House.
Yes.
GHTV merchandise.
Yes.
Yes, we got merch.
Sitting here proudly wearing my GHTV t-shirt right now.
I know, and you were holding up this amazing. Yes. I love these mugs.
It is, yes, it looks like it's embossed now. It is hand wash only, but boy, the lettering on it
it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's nice and clear.
It's embossed.
And it's a nice size. It looks like it's about a 14, 15-ounce mug.
It
maybe
is
more.
Our size of coffee mug.
I know. We need, because, well, here's my deal. I have a sign up in our kitchen that says, I like a little cream and sugar. I like a lot of cream and sugar with my coffee, or something to that effect. I like my cream and sugar with a little coffee.
That's it.
That's what it says. Mm-hmm. And that is true, which requires that you only fill the cup up with about 8 ounces of coffee. Mm-hmm. The other 3 ounces, it has to be sugar and creamer or some sort of flavoring syrup. Maybe even some, I don't know, whipped cream. We'll see what goes on top. I love to take the flavoring syrup. We've got those real cane sugar syrups in our kitchen. Mm-hmm. Derek and I we really like cane sugar.
Yeah.
We don't like sugar substitutes. If we're going to sweeten something, it's going to be done with cane sugar. And these are cane sugar based with real flavorings in them. And so we've got caramel and what else is in there? Cocoa, and we've also got
vanilla.
Vanilla,
French
of
vanilla,
course.
Yeah.
We've got French vanilla. We've also got, for our tea, we've got peach and blackberry, but we will add those along with some half and half or some milk to my coffee. And I will be happy. I'm singing all morning long.
Yeah. Well, you can find the link to the shop with the T-shirts and mugs, and perhaps others might do caps. I always like a good baseball cap.
I like a good baseball cap, too.
And,
who knows what we'll do? We'll see what Gidget thinks will work.
They're at gilberthouse.org/store, where we've also got links to freeze-dried, GMO-free food and coffee from Simply Clean Foods.
And it's wonderful coffee.
Yes.
That, as long as you don't open the package because it's vacuum sealed, then that will last for a long, long time. And you can get beans or ground. Mm-hmm. And we got the beans, and we finally one day said, okay, we've had this for 3 days.
Let's test it out.
Let's see if it's still good.
Take it out for a dance.
We couldn't resist. It's so good.
Yep. So you'll find that link right on the front page of the Gilbert House Ministries store, gilberthouse.org/store, along with our specials. And, of course, also a link to our, there's a link on the front page of the website, gilberthouse.org, for our streaming video site. I'm going to put the video recorded of my discussion on Sunday morning, last Sunday, while we were at the Go Therefore conference.
That was so good. That is
talking about our trip, our solidarity mission back in May to Israel. What we saw, the staff at Harvest Revival Center in Brookville, Ohio, did a wonderful job of recording it. The audio is great. They included the production values are better than what we could have done. And
So
I'll put that
you,
at our
you
streaming
guys.
video site, gilberthouse.org/video, if you want to go there. But you can also there rent our other presentation videos, travelogue-umentaries, and so forth. So that is all of the...
Well, and speaking of the T-shirts,
All of
going
the
back
pitch.
to that, you can get GHTV, but also you can get Red Wing Saga T-shirts.
That is right.
And we might even be doing Grace and Glory T-shirts. Those of you who love those dogs like we do, they're amazing dogs.
Yeah, they really are. They can completely redecorate a room in the span of one PID radio episode.
I know they truly did.
We
so
look forward to seeing how the family room looks when we get back in.
I can't wait to see it. It's going to be so good. Boy, I'll tell you what, the politics of what goes on out there can really leave you reeling. You know, those of you out there who have families, young families, you got kids, you got grandkids maybe that come over and visit, and you're looking at them, grade school age, high school age, and thinking, what kind of world are they going to have when they get married and they have children?
Mm-hmm.
Well, assuming that the Lord tarries and the world is still here 20 years hence, where are we going?
Yeah. Well, we're going in a direction that the Lord has already foreseen, so we don't have to, we don't need to panic. That's the thing. Don't panic.
Please don't panic.
Yeah.
We need to get T-shirts that just say "Don't panic."
Yeah.
The Lord's got this. Don't panic.
Yeah. The way the media presents the news, the political news, with the charts, the graphs, the latest polls, it's like watching a sporting event, and I think that's by design.
It's a new form of bread and circuses.
Red team, blue team.
You feel like you're involved in politics when in fact you're just being shown the sleight of hand stuff.
Yeah. That's one of the things that really struck me in researching my presentation for the Go Therefore conference on what was happening behind the scenes before the UN vote in 1947 to create the nation of Israel.
Before the break, you teased the idea of a secret group, and we'll get to that secret group in a minute. But your research, when people look at why Israel exists, usually most of us, because we want a simple answer, it's because of this guy, because of this group, because of this activity, because of this historical event. And oftentimes it's Balfour Declaration, Rothschild. It's so much more complicated than that. That Balfour letter was incidental to it all, and yet that's been sort of like, that's it. Yeah,
and in fact, that triggered a lot of protest back in 2017. I kind of missed it because I was not really... That's not where my research was at that point.
I kept talking about it. I kept saying to Tom Horn, look, it's been 100 years, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
In fact, the Palestinian Authority had demanded that the British government apologize back in 2017 for the Balfour Declaration. And to its credit, the Johnson government said, no, we're not going to do that.
And by the way...
that would have been Theresa May. Sorry.
Yeah. Theresa May.
But anyway, to their credit, the UK government said, no, we're not apologizing for that. Yeah.
I know. She very quickly had to hand off to Boris because she just wasn't getting it done to everybody's satisfaction. Brexit, to which they're going to get married to the EU again. You watch. Gosh, what was I about to say?
Secret organizations behind the scenes.
Secret organizations,
Israel.
yes. No, 100 years. That is 250s. Those of you who can do math, yes, it's 250s. 50 is a big number biblically. It's the number that tells us about a big old jubilee. Islam also looks at 50 years as a big deal. So 50 years ago.
1974.
Yep. Well, actually 50 years ago last year, October 7th.
Oh, yeah.
50 years.
The Yom Kippur War.
The Yom Kippur War.
Right.
So look at what happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Erdogan is looking at 100 years ago.
Right.
And he wants to reestablish the old caliphate. In some ways, he calls himself the new Ataturk, but at the same time, who westernized Turkey.
Right.
But at the same time, he wants to be the new caliph. You can't have it both ways.
No.
You're either with the West or you're not.
NATO really needs to
kick him out.
They really do, but they don't want
rumblings. There are rumblings, though. I saw a story this morning saying that some in NATO want him gone.
Well, good, the fact that Turkey is willing to go kinetic with Greece, which is another NATO member, could cause real problems. NATO doesn't want to give up their bases in Turkey because of its proximity to Russia, but the Turks have been making nice with the Russians, so...
They also control access to the Black Sea.
Right. And Turkey becomes friendly with Russia. Russia suddenly gets its warm water ports, protected warm water ports that it really wants and has needed for a long time. There is a lot going on regarding the prophetic fulfillment that God decreed. He said that there would be an Israel reestablished in the land. That happened in 1948. A lot of Christians today, looking at Israel's response to provocations from their Arab neighbors, have decided that Israel can't be the fulfillment of God's promises, because if the Israelis were fulfilling God's promises, they wouldn't be as mean as they are, or something.
There's nothing in the Bible to say that.
No. And it's clear when you read Zechariah 12, Zechariah 14, Joel chapter 1, Joel's army. When you read carefully, Joel's army's not the good guys.
But Joel's army, yeah.
Yeah, Joel's army. I think you could be right. Anyway, Joel's army, which some have interpreted as being warriors of God. No, they're fighting for the enemy. God destroys Joel's army.
Yes, but he allows it.
He allows it. The returned Israelites, the Israelis, are not in for a good time. And we don't say this with any joy.
No, we love so many people over there.
Right.
We know them well.
There is a day coming when they will be the center of a world war. That is the war of Gog and Magog, the war that leads to Armageddon. But God said a spirit of grace and mercy will be poured out on the remnant of the house of Judah, in other words, the Jews, and the house of David in Jerusalem, which is the site of Armageddon, and they will look on me, on him whom they have pierced, and mourn.
Yes.
So they will recognize, as Avi Lipkin said, is Messiah coming for the first time or the second time? I have a feeling we'll find out very soon.
Yeah.
And I agree with that.
Yes.
And we pray for our Jewish brothers and sisters that when he comes, they will recognize him who he is.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we just keep planting seeds.
Question for you, though. Before the break, you mentioned secret group that's going on now.
Right.
You mean people meet in secret even today?
Well, yeah.
And plot and plan? What?
The nations rage and imagine a vain thing. Yeah. He who sits in the heavens laughs. He holds them in derision.
He does.
Yeah. This is something that I heard on the No Agenda podcast, which is John C. Dvorak and Adam Curry. Listened to them off and on over the years. Their podcast is almost as old as PID Radio. Not quite. Almost. Sorry, Adam. Sorry,
I know
John.
you created the code, but we started
That's
first.
right. You created the code, but we are the OGs.
Yeah.
They were talking about a report by ProPublica, and that is a left-leaning news site that is often cited by progressives. Democracy Now!, Amy Goodman, a very liberal, left-liberal commentator, news host. They are all apparently freaking out about an organization called Ziklag.
Oh, yeah.
Ziklag is a charity that is, it's a charity organization, invitation only. You've got to, in order to qualify to get in, you've got to show a net worth of at least $25 million. So
I'm guessing we're not going to get in.
We're not getting in. This includes the families behind Hobby Lobby and the company we buy our boxes from, Uline.
Oh,
I didn't realize that the Uline family. Yeah, it's not spelled like the company ULINE. But it is. That's how you pronounce their name, Uline. According to the stories, this group of ultra wealthy Christian donors is spending nearly $12 million to mobilize Republican-leaning voters and purge more than 1 million people from the rolls in key swing states. Now, $12 million. There are a couple of things about this that made me laugh out loud. Ziklag, by the way, if you're wondering about the name, that was the city where David took refuge when he was on the run from Saul, and he was pretending to be friendly to the Philistines.
And it's where he learned that Saul was dead.
where he learned Saul was dead. He mourned for Saul. And it's from where he began his return to power, where he was acclaimed king of the tribe of Judah in Hebron. And then from there, he went to Jerusalem. They took Jerusalem, and he was declared king over all Israel.
The name itself means winding.
The long and zigzag road?
Yes. Long and zigzag road.
It doesn't flow. Yeah.
It really doesn't.
So anyway, so that's the source of the name. The second thing that made me laugh, well, no, the first thing that made me laugh was the idea that $12 million would swing the election.
Yeah.
We've been hearing reports that Kamala Harris, since being anointed queen of the Democrat Party, has taken in over $300 million in the last 3 weeks. She took,
taken in or just moved from one account to another?
Well, I don't know. Some of that, I think there was $96 million in the Biden campaign fund. And according to Federal Election Commission regulations, you can't just change the name of the campaign from Biden-Harris 2024 to Harris-whoever 2024 and take the money. That's just not allowed, but that appears to be what they did. The Trump campaign has filed a complaint with the FEC, but I doubt the FEC is going to do anything about it. But you've got a lot of wealthy liberal donors, George Soros, among others, wealthy Hollywood donors, and that her campaign has raised $300 million. $12 million to mobilize Republican-leaning voters is a drop in the bucket compared to three. Math is not my strong suit, but I'm pretty sure 300 is bigger than 12. So that's one thing that made me laugh. That Democrats, again, the Democrats in the media, but I repeat myself, are freaking out about this. Secondly, is that they are not saying anything about the other thing that made me laugh was this idea that mega wealthy Christian donors, despite their wealth, would somehow manage to turn the election to Donald Trump single-handedly and then impose a Christian theocracy, which is really what they're concerned about, because the organization Ziklag, they've pulled their website offline, by the way. UnitedInPurpose.org is the website. But the Wayback Machine is forever.
Oh, yeah.
So you can look it up. Their goals are to take dominion over the 7 mountains of culture. And now we're back to the New Apostolic Reformation and the 7 Mountains Mandate.
Yes. I'm sorry, but first of all, that's a really bad slogan.
7 mountains?
Yeah. She who sits upon the 7 mountains.
Yeah, read Revelation.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
It's too complicated. I never read that.
This was, if you're not familiar with the 7 Mountains Mandate, this is it's described as a dream that was given to Bill Bright, founder of Campus Crusade, and Lauren Cunningham. They also claim that Francis Schaeffer received the same dream. I think they're bringing his name in. That was not the original story I read. Anyway, Cunningham and Bright at lunch one day said, yeah, we both got this same dream where they're supposed to take over the 7 mountains of culture. And we should remember the acronym ABC, EFG, M. Arts and entertainment, business, church, education, family, government, and media. Those are the 7 mountains. And if we dominate those, then we will take dominion and we can establish a Christian nation. And there's no doubt that if we were to take over those 7 spheres of influence, sometimes they're called that instead of 7 mountains, we would have a Christianized country. But Jesus never commanded his disciples to go out and form political action committees in his name.
No.
Or impose a top-down morality. The government's, yes, you can legislate morality to a degree, but the goal is to change hearts.
Exactly. You cannot change your country's leadership and expect, even if you got every world leader to become a Christian, it still wouldn't change. The fallen realm is throughout the world. Human beings have free will rights. There will always be someone else that comes in and topples that leadership. Another secretive group will come along and take it down, because that only when the Lord rules from Zion, when he rules from Jerusalem, will the world be under a theocracy.
Right, right.
But if you want to take a look at the spiritual aspects, the theopolitics that we're living under right now, yeah, we do have a theocracy. It's just not the God you want.
Exactly. There is a God of this world.
Putting a God that a small group of wealthy individuals think, we're going to put capital G God in place and we'll run things. Again, human beings, flawed, subject to making bad decisions. It will not work.
Will not work.
Even when Christ rules during the millennial reign, there's scripture to indicate that not every country will be obedient.
That is true, yeah.
Because he says, if you don't do the things I ask you to do, come annually, be part of the festivals, you won't get any rain.
And then, of course, at the end of that 1,000 years, Gog and Magog and the Satan
spirits get together,
are allowed out, and there's one final battle.
Which shows that even then, that the fallen realm will be able to roust enough human beings into an army to try to take down the Lord one more time.
They'll have human dupes. Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just think it's laughable that somehow Christians are going to take over the government. Just look at the world around us. It just is not going to happen.
It will never happen.
Yeah. So it's laughable to see Democrats and the media freaking out about this. Oh, secret society, they're going to
Well, they're
running around like their hair is on fire, and it's basically campaigning to try to stir up liberal voters to get to the polls.
Yeah, they're spam painting.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, spam a lot.
That's it.
I don't even want to talk about Olympic boxing. You want to talk about Mpox. I think we've got about 10 or 15 minutes left.
Look, many of you've looked at the boxing thing. Basically, it's XX and XY. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. Biology.
Yep.
But with regard to Mpox, it used to be called monkeypox. It's now called Mpox. There is a clade of Mpox. It's clade 1b that is now permeating its way through the Democratic Republic of Congo and the neighboring countries. And there are thousands of cases. And it is being shown to be highly transmissible and up to a 10% fatality rate. It's 5% in adults. It is up to 10% in children. That is
very high. 5% is, it's estimated that the great influenza of 100 years ago was only 2.5%.
I know. 2.5 to 5, depending upon what numbers.
Right.
But 5 is a lot.
5 to 10 is more.
Yeah. And 10% of children?
Yeah, that's unusual that it's more dangerous with children, because typically it affects adults and the elderly.
But remember that the DRC, that their nutrition and basic hygiene is a little different in some areas. Not everywhere. If you got cities, it can be better. But even in the cities, sometimes you'll have trash going, boy, that sounds like San Francisco.
Yeah.
But you'd have to remember there may be local customs as well, like burial customs, a lot of things that can raise that transmission rate and maybe even the death rate. Sadly, because of what's been happening over the last 5-6 decades, as far as doctors coming in and taking over, local physicians sometimes are not cooperative with incoming foreign physicians.
Yeah.
Local villagers may not be cooperative to people coming in with vials and needles. Because sometimes what's been told to them hasn't been quite the truth.
Right. Yeah, it's this is a dangerous disease, and more infectious and more dangerous than the current strains of avian flu that are, the infection fatality rate in the avian flu is higher. It's just not very infectious.
It's 50% in H5N1.
But it's not spreading.
But it's very, very, very few cases, human cases.
Right.
There are lots of bird cases.
Yeah.
And there are more and more cattle cases. And we're finding it in other mammals as well, even sea animals.
Yeah.
So I think H5N1 is learning. I think it's learning how to infect humans.
Yeah. The good thing about viruses is typically when they mutate and become more infectious, they become less virulent, less deadly.
Right. The whole point is to be able to go from subject to subject. And if your subject one dies within a day and doesn't infect anybody else, then it's
kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So more than likely, it's unlikely to get something that's extremely transmissible that is going to have higher than a 10% fatality rate. But I'll say again, H5N1 is learning. Mpox, we're seeing, what's going on there. So what we're saying is we're seeing wars and rumors of wars.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing
pestilence.
Pestilence.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing the economy shut down.
Oh, yeah.
And death is having a field day.
There was a quick story I wanted to add here about China apparently getting ready to start flying helicopter money out to its people.
Trying to help their economy?
Yeah, an advisor to the central bank there in China wanting to talk about sending just free money out there. Let's see. Would adopt fiscal measures to support consumption and directly send money to households. This is from Huang Yiping, who's a member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the People's Bank of China, the central bank there.
Yeah, prime in the pump.
And the reason this is significant is because back in 2008, when the subprime mortgage crisis hit, it was thought that there was a risk that the global banking system would fail. Apparently, one of the reasons it didn't was that the Chinese started taking on a lot of debt and creating the illusion of wealth by just printing lots of money. The
and
same
building
kind
cities.
of thing. Yeah, building ghost cities and paying people to build these cities that nobody lives in. Total debt in China at the time in 2008 was slightly over 100% of GDP. It was like 105%. Now it is close to 330% of GDP. Now, not all of this is government debt. Government debt is up some, but corporate debt and household debt have both increased substantially. So the illusion of wealth in China over the last 15 years is similar to what we experienced here in the 90s with artificially low interest rates. We're not really richer as a nation. We just have more people who've taken out more debt. And we're getting to a point now, if things begin to topple or wobble economically, China is not going to be able to take on another 200% of GDP worth of debt to bail out the global economy.
Well, let me recommend what may be happening. Let me suggest this. I think here in the United States, to help keep our economy, keep the facade of a robust economy. You know how Joe Biden is constantly saying that we're so much better off now than we were before. Well, I think that we may see helicopter money here, and we may see the Fed reduce the prime rate by quite a bit, like a point or more, an entire percentage point or more.
Yes, especially with the election coming in November. The last thing they want is the economy to formally tip over. And there are some indicators that show that the U.S. economy is already in recession.
They want grocery prices down. They want gas prices down. They want people back to work.
And Biden has almost already almost drained the strategic petroleum reserve to try to keep gasoline prices down. We were noticing that here in the Ozarks, we're down below $3 a gallon, which I know our prices are low relative to the rest of the country, but below $3 a gallon was kind of an eye-opener. It's like, how did that happen? Especially if things get hot in the Middle East, as it appears they are about to, that will probably spike things.
Our Navy is there to help out. The U.S. is suddenly sending
the Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah, and I've told you that I have a theory that the U.S. really wants control of Iran.
You may be right about that.
I don't know if I am or not, but it's my hunch.
We've been sticking our fingers in, getting our nose involved there for many, many years.
For a long, long time.
Yeah. I was not aware that one of the reasons that Mossadegh was overthrown back in the 50s was to facilitate U.S. oil interests replacing British oil interests there, just as American oil interests pushed out British oil interests in Arabia in the 30s and 40s.
Yep.
Yeah. It's all about the oil.
And no time to get into all of it, sadly.
Yes. Well, tonight on A View from the Bunker, it will be Avi Lipkin. Boy, if there's ever going to get a program that'll get us
download our app
canceled,
right now.
Download
the app.
You do want to see and hear what Avi has to say. He gives a brief history of what happened there.
It was a great honor for him to come in and talk to our group. In fact, when he sat down, I don't know if it was on the recording or not, but he said to us, he wanted it recorded.
Yeah.
He said, I don't know if I'll ever be allowed to say this again, and I want it on the record.
Yeah. And he said this was the most important testimony that he will have shared with us. And he basically lays it out with no holds barred, which is typical Avi Lipkin, which is why I thought when the first time I heard him
so
and I was still shedding the programming of the corporate media, I thought, Avi's nuts. He's crazy.
No, he's great. I love him.
Avi is right. So don't miss that tonight. A View from the Bunker that drops at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. CDT, not CST. We're not back on ST until November. 7 p.m. CDT. That's UTC -5 if you're elsewhere on the planet. You can get it on our app, Roku, Apple TV, or, of course, YouTube, at least for an hour or two before they start yanking it. Anyway, there's that. Conferences coming up. The Pitchfork and Hoe Gathering in North Dakota, just a month away, September 6th, 7th, 8th. That is at Valley City, North Dakota. It's a wonderful gathering. I had a great time there last year.
I know you did.
A small little weekend series of workshops for small farmers and homesteaders. How to, organic farming, how to, take care of your goats and things like this.
Important stuff,
especially in this day. And then a crazy Christian talking about why giants, gods, and dragons.
Two crazy Christians.
This year it's two. Dr. Doug Hamp has been added. And so he will be joining me up there. So we'll be speaking. If you're not familiar with Doug, boy, I'll tell you what, he is an out-of-the-box thinker. He sees the roles that will be played by artificial intelligence, transhumanism, and the UFO UAP phenomenon in end times prophecy. We've talked about that with him on Unraveling Revelation.
Yeah, we love Doug so much, so I'm delighted that they've invited him.
Yep. So this will be coming up just a month away. Valley City, North Dakota. That's an hour west of Fargo.
Yep. There may be a conference at the very end of October. We'll know more in another week or two.
Right.
And in November, of course, we're still planning to go to Israel.
Yes.
Would be November 7th, I think, would be leaving.
6th.
Yeah. Oh, the very day after.
6th through 13th.
Okay. So if you are interested, please contact Lipkin Tours and let them know. You can go down on their list and you can pay a down payment if you want to, however you want to handle that. But Derek and I will find out in the next week or two if we are going to change our minds.
Yeah.
And that will be done by Iran if that happens.
Yes.
Because if they attack Israel, then in fact,
may throw things up in the air.
There are some who think that it will be a multi-prong attack. It will be Hezbollah, it will be the Houthis, and every proxy for Iran, plus Iran.
Yeah, Iraqi militias, Hezbollah, it would be all out.
But good luck trying that.
Yeah.
Do you not understand that Michael is still there?
Yes.
He still represents Yahweh, that this is his land. Come on, buddy. As you know, when the Lord was standing on Mount Hermon, transfigured with Moses and Elijah, he was essentially saying to the fallen realm,
yes,
come get me.
This is mine.
Yes. He's standing there still.
Yeah.
He is still in Israel.
And the Lord has foreseen all of this. Again, the Lord holds them laughs in derision.
Exactly. Yeah. Read Psalm 2. It is such a comfort.
Amen.
And if you want to know how to react to that, read Psalm 1.
Christmas in Branson. We will be there the first weekend in December 5th through 8th. Prophecy Watchers holding a conference there. We will be there along with L.A. Marzulli, Bill Salas, Ken Johnson, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis, Patrick M. Wood, Josh Peck, Mondo Gonzalez, Doug Hershey will be there.
Oh, haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah. And others. You can find more information at, it is BransonChristmasProphecyConference.com, but just go to our website, look for the calendar, or go to our app.
Download the app.
Download the app, go to the calendar section, and look at upcoming events. All the links are in there. There's even a little map that shows you how to get to the chateau on the lake in Branson.
Oh, listen, we did not design the app. This is all Subsplash, and they are incredible.
Amen to that. So that's what's coming up ahead. All of our upcoming conferences and whatnot will always be there. And if
Always.
you're interested in joining us in Israel, November, next spring, whenever the Lord allows, you'll find that information at
You will indeed. And you'll find
gilberthouse.org/travel.
coffee mugs and T-shirts and
At
all
the
sorts
store.
of goodies.
Yeah, until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and for Grace and Glory, who are in the house, perhaps redecorating. I don't know. Bye-bye, everybody.
PID Radio is produced by Gilbert House and released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Follow us online, Twitter @PID Radio, or the PID Radio page at Facebook. Join us each week for our online Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, online at gilberthouse.org.